Okay, excuse me, this is lesson 50 for 7th grade, and today's topic is unit multipliers and unit conversions. Now, we've done some conversions before, but today we're going to show you what a unit multiplier is, and hopefully, if conversions were kind of confusing before, hopefully this will kind of help you cure that confusion and get past converting, because this is a tool right here that can help us eventually get past some very complex conversions. For instance, you'll use it when you get to chemistry. It's called dimensional analysis, or stoichiometry is another word for it, where you convert between different elements and things like that, and amounts with different experiments. So it's a very important topic, and it helps us organize so that we can do conversions in a simplistic fashion. Today we're only going to do one-step conversions, but eventually you can get to some that take up to 10 steps. Who knows? But this is a good way to help organize conversions. Okay. All right. So to review, reducing a fraction, we can replace factors that appear in both the numerator and denominator, as long as everything's being multiplied. But you can see here they broke down 24 into its prime factors and 36 into its prime factors, and they crossed out all pairs. 2 over 2 is 1, 2 over 2 is 1, 3 over 3 is 1, and you're left with 2 over 3. We could also do something we call canceling when we multiply. So you see me do this all the time. 2/3 times 3/5. Instead of multiplying straight across right away, I see that 3 and 3 are just going to cancel out with each other anyway, so we're left with 2/5. Well, the thing is with this, we can apply this to units as well. We can cancel units before we multiply. So for instance, this is a conversion. This is an example of something we're going to do. 5 feet times 12 inches over 1 foot equals 60 inches. So just like we did here, we canceled out the 3's, we can cancel out the feet, and we're left with 12 inches. Now this should make sense, because in 1 foot there are 12 inches. So really, we're multiplying by 1 here, because 1 foot is 12 inches. These two things are the same, even though they have a different label. Okay? So there are 12 inches in 1 foot, so in 5 of them there should be 60, or 5 times 12. And what we end up doing here, once we get everything set up, is we multiply by anything on the top and divide by anything on the bottom. But we have 1 and 1 on the bottom. If you divide by 1, you just get the same answer. So that's where 60 comes from. 5 times 12 divided by 1 times 1, which is 60 over 1, or 60 inches. And we'll get into that more so. And I kind of already answered this question, but why is 12 inches over 1 foot equal to 1? Well, it's the same reason that 3 over 3 is equal to 1, because 12 inches and 1 foot are the same thing. So it's just a conversion. We're not changing anything except for the units. We are getting the same answer. Alright. So remember that we changed the name of a number by multiplying by a fraction whose value equals 1. Here we change the name of 3, 12 over 4, by multiplying by 4 over 4. So 3 times 4 over 4 equals 12 over 4. Could have done 3 over 1 times 4 over 4. 3 times 4 is 12, 1 times 4 is 4. The fraction 12 over 4 is another name for 3, because 12 divided by 4 equals 3. So like I said, we're not changing anything, we're just changing the way it looks. We're not changing the value, we're just changing the way it looks, sorry. Okay. So when the numerator and denominator of a fraction are equal and are not 0, because we can't have 0 in the denominator, the fraction equals 1. There is an unlimited number of fractions that equal 1. A fraction equal to 1 may have units, such as 12 inches over 12 inches, and that equals 1. Since 12 inches equals 1 foot, we can write two or more fractions that equal 1. 12 inches over 1 foot. As we just saw, that equals 1 too, because 12 inches and 1 foot are the same thing. We could have written it like this. 1 foot over 12 inches, also equal to 1. They are the same thing. Now, the first conversion that we went through, it had to be written the way that it was, and I'll explain that once we get to a conversion. So this brings us to unit multipliers here. So because these fractions have units and are equal to 1, we call them unit multipliers. They're very useful for converting. I've said that. If we want to convert 5 feet to inches, we can multiply 5 feet by a multiplier that has inches on top and feet on bottom. The feet units cancel and the product is 60 inches. So, just as I said a few seconds ago, it had to be written this way for this one because we wanted to get to inches and we wanted feet to cancel out. So always start with what they give you. Let's see if I have my diagram here. I don't. But we're going to start with what they give us, 5 feet, and we want to end in what they want us to put it in. So here we started with 5 feet. They wanted us to put it in inches. So we want to get feet on the bottom here so that feet cancel out with each other, and we're left with inches in the end. 5 times 12. If we want to convert 96 inches to feet, we can use the unit multiplier for that. Now this is different. Now we're going from inches to feet. So 96 inches, that means we're going to put inches down here so that inches cancel out, and we're left with feet. Now you know you're done when you have the unit you're trying to convert as your top part on your last step. So once this is in the top, and let's say you're trying to get the feet, and feet's on the top here, you're good, you know you're done. Now the difference between this one and this one is that we did 5 times 12 here gets us 60. Well now this is on the bottom, so this is 96 divided by 12 gives us 8. So multiply by things on the top, divide by things on the bottom. Okay, so as I said before, we have this certain way of setting things up. We want to start with the given measure. For instance, they gave us 96 inches. And we're going to use a unit multiplier. We're going to get rid of inches. Here's our unit multiplier right here. 1 feet over 12 inches. And we want to get to the converted measure, feet. So there we started. We went 96 inches times 1 foot over 12 inches, and that got us to 8 feet. So this is the form that we're going to use to do this. There we go. Alright, before we get into that next one here, this one says write 2 unit multipliers for these equivalent measures. Okay? Remember, unit multipliers are just those fractions that we use that are equal to 1. So 3 feet equals 1 yard. So I could write it as 3 feet, 1 yard. I could also write it as 1 yard over 3 feet. Those are both equal to 1. Those are both unit multipliers because they're at the same, well, 3 feet and 1 yard are the same thing. It says they're equal, and they are. And 1 yard and 3 feet are the same thing. So these both are equal to 1, and they both have units. That means they're both unit multipliers. Okay, we're actually going to use those for these examples here. Alright, we're going to use this here. Let's select unit multipliers from example 1 to convert 240 yards to feet. Alright, we're going to start with the given measure for A, 240 yards. We're going to multiply that by a unit multiplier, and we want to get it into feet. So we want to end in feet. Okay. Now, we want to end in feet, and we want yards to cancel out with yards. So this is what it should look like. Yards and feet. So we're going to use the one where yards will cancel out with each other, and you're left with feet. That would be this one. 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. So now your yards will cancel out, and you're left with 240 times 3. Let's do that quick. 12, 720 feet. So that would be your answer for A. Get my red marker, I'm going to check my time quick. We're doing okay. Speed it up a little bit here. Now, 240 feet to yards. So, we're going to start with what they give us, 240 feet. We're going to multiply it by a multiplier. We want to get that into yards this time. Sorry, that's not very straight. Okay. So this time we want feet in the bottom. That whatever we start with, we want to cancel out. And we want to be left with yards. So now we're going to use this one instead. 3 feet, 1 yard. So this one, we're going to do 240 divided by 3. Well, I know that 24 divided by 3 is 8. And we have a 0, so it should be 80. So really you can think about it this way. 240 divided by 3 is 80 times 1. Still get 80. Okay? And for that top one, we could have done 240 times 3 divided by 1. And we still would have got 720. Alright? So that's the difference between those two. I think we have time for a couple more. Okay, an Olympic event in track and field is a 100-meter dash. 100 meters is about how many yards? So we know that 1 meter is 1.1 yards about, so that's an approximation. So given measure, 100 meters. We're going to multiply it by a multiplier, and we want to get that into yards. So we want meters to cancel out with meters, and it tells us that 1 meter is about 1.1 yards. So 100 times 1.1 should give us 110 yards about. Okay? Alright. And we'll make this one our last one here. It says Tim can sprint 9 yards per second. Convert this rate to feet per second. Okay, so we're going to write this one a little differently. I'm going to put it up here again, so don't get confused. Well, we can do it right here, why not? So 9 yards, this is going to look a little different. 9 yards per 1 second. So it's just a different way to write 9 yards per second. Okay? Be like miles per hour, but it's yards per second. We're going to multiply it by a multiplier because we want to get it into feet per second. So we want feet per second. Alright, so we don't have to change the seconds, we're only looking at changing the yards. So we want yards to cancel out with yards, and we want this to be in feet. Well, how many yards are in, or how many feet are in a yard? 3 feet in 1 yard. So really we have 9 times 3 is 27. 1 times 1 is 1. Alright, these canceled out. So we have 27 feet per second. Alright, and we will continue with this tomorrow.